growth, progressive web apps, and conversion rate optimization are the top 3 expertise that he brings to the table. Please welcome Senior Product Manager, Booking.com, Chitra Gangrade.
So hi, my name is Chitra Gangrade. I lead a business vertical for Booking.com, and today I'm going to be talking about product market fit. So this talk is not just relevant for designers, but for anyone who's trying to build something new, a new product, a new startup. So let's get started. Obsess about the problem, not the product. Keep the customer at the center of everything that you're doing. I'm sure you must have heard this before. But do you guys really think we follow it? I don't think so. I think we still live in a product-obsessed world. You keep hearing things like, oh, I'm building this amazing blockchain product, or I'm doing something in AI. But nobody is talking about what is it going to do for your users. Who are your users? What problem do they have? How will it help their life? I fundamentally believe that the only way to build a successful product, a successful company, is to understand who your customers are, understand what their problem is, and then go deep into it. Go all in. Keep trying, keep building new things, keep showing it to your customers, keep learning from them. And only when a lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into this, you will be like, okay, something is working. And that is when you will have product market fit, and that is how you build a scalable company. But what does this mean? This means that you have to fail a lot. I think Dhruv also touched about it, but it is inevitable. What you think is that, oh, this idea is going to really crack it, probably is not going to work. You will show something to your users, and they will reject it. But that's how it is. That's how you build products. But what does that mean? So every time you change direction, every time you change the product, does that mean you have to start from scratch? Does that mean that you have to undo all the work you have done and start all over again? No. Speed is actually one of the most important things a startup has. So if you're not innovating fast enough, if you're not iterating fast enough, then you've already lost the game. So today, I'm going to be talking about how do you build foundations and building blocks which allow you to iterate on products very quickly, which help you find your product market fit quickly. I'm also going to run you through 2 case studies, 2 products that we built at Booking.com, which are drastically different, and launch them back to back without much investment in design, tech, or content. So let's get started. A bit of context first. So I work for Booking.com. Booking.com is the world's largest hotel booking website. We do more than 1 million bookings a day. We are present in more than 200 countries, and our market cap is almost 5 times the size of Expedia. It's a pretty big company. But that's not where our ambition stops. What we want to do is we want to help you with anything and everything that you do while you're traveling. Be it booking a hotel, booking a flight, booking a restaurant, or even booking a boat when you're in the beautiful city of Amsterdam. Anything and everything a traveler does while they're traveling, we want them to come to Booking.com. So that's where I come in. I lead a new vertical for Booking called shopping. Our job is to make it easier for people to shop when they're in a new city or a new country. So I know shopping sounds a little bit unconventional, but it is actually one of the most important activities a user does when they travel. They spend a lot of money and time shopping while they're in a new city. To give you some context, Chinese users alone spent $120 billion just last year shopping when they were in another country. So when I joined Booking.com, I had a meeting with the leadership, and they told me that if we truly want to help our customers with everything that they do while they're traveling, we have to build something in shopping. So they told me, Chitra, why don't you take a stab at it? Look, what kind of products can we build? So I said, okay. Yeah, it's a little, by the way, this is the most vague problem statement I've ever received in my career. So I said, okay, let me take a stab at it. We did some user research and market research, and we had some major revelations, and they were not good revelations. We have no prior experience in shopping. Booking has not done anything related to shopping. We don't know how brands work, how supply chain works, how warehouses work. There's nobody in the company I can go and say that, hey, what did you learn from the last time? We have no customer understanding. We are a hotel booking website. We don't know what you guys do after you check in. We don't know what problems you have. We don't know if there is a problem. How do you get started? And there's even no organized competitor. There's no one I can look up to and see, oh, what mistakes did these guys make? What can I learn from them? Or even copy them to just get started. So this made us realize that, okay, we are trying to solve a very hard problem, and this is a very ambiguous problem. So we knew that we have to take multiple approaches. We'll have to try a lot of things, and most of those things will fail. We were ready to fail. But we also wanted to iterate fast enough and reach product market fit as quickly as possible. So how do you do that? How do you launch multiple products back one after the other, learn from your users, and see what is going to work? You build foundations. What are foundations? Foundations are building blocks that are independent of your product, that are part of the industry that you're working in, and that allows you to launch multiple products on top of them. So what are the key characteristics of a foundation? A foundation allows you to learn. Every time you're putting something in front of your customers, you have to learn something even if you fail. If you're not learning, you might just pack up and go home. Needs to be product agnostic. A lot of times we have this tendency that we fine-tune everything that we do to the first idea that we have. You don't know what product is going to work. You don't know how the industry is going to change. You will learn something about your customers that will completely change the product that you end up building. So a foundation needs to support the end product and not the first idea that you have. And it needs to withstand new discoveries. While you are on this journey, you will learn things that will completely change your worldview of the market and the problem. So the way you build foundations, they need to be so flexible that you can twist it, tweak it to support the next idea, the next learning that you have. So now let me take you over. So before I go deep into what foundations we built and how we built it, let me first show you the products that we built and how different they were. So the first product that we launched was to help users discover what to shop in a new city. What is this place famous for? What should I buy here? So this was a content-based product, and we think of it like Instagram meets Lonely Planet. So we had a lot of rich photographs, a lot of rich content to tell you where to shop. We had articles like, what are the top vintage stores to buy things in London? Where can I go to buy Harry Potter related stuff for my kid in London? So we had a lot of information like this, which was connected to shopping malls, shopping areas, brands in London, where you can go and buy things. And then once the user decides, okay, I want to go to this particular store, we had very deep information about where is this located, what are the opening hours, and even small quirky information like go there at 4 o'clock, because 4 to 6 they have free coffee. So this product, what are the key aspects of this product? It was an exploration-based product. We wanted our users to keep engaging with this product, keep using it, save things that they want to buy, save areas they want to go to, and like when they're in London, use this list. It had a lot of rich and deep content. We sent people on the streets of London. We actually spoke to shopkeepers and collected information about what's special about their place. And this was done completely internally. All of this was a very handcrafted product. All the content, all the images, everything was done by teams in-house. Now let me talk about the second product. So this again answered the same user problem of what should I buy in a new city, but it was targeted towards a very niche use case. All of us know someone who has asked someone to get them an iPhone from the US because it's cheaper. The same thing exists for fashion brands as well. Fashion brands can be 50, 60, 70% cheaper in a new city. To give you an example, to buy a high-end Louis Vuitton bag, it is cheaper for someone in Shanghai to book a flight to London, stay in a 5-star hotel, buy the bag, and come back than to buy it in Shanghai. That much is the price difference. So we basically built a product that would tell you what brands are cheaper in the city that you're going to, which products are cheaper by how much, what is the price, order it, and it will be delivered to your hotel. So now this product, how is this different from the previous product? This was an e-commerce product. We wanted our users to find the product they want to buy as quickly as possible, see what they like, make a transaction. There was a new product entity. The previous product was only talking about shopping malls, shopping areas, brands, but we were not talking about an individual product. This product just blew up our catalog. We had to while the previous product was internal, this was we were working with so many external partners, payments, delivery, even getting the information of what is the price of the product in different countries. We had to integrate with multiple players. So you can see that these products are drastically different, but we were still able to launch them one after the other to quickly learn from our customers. How did we do that? By building foundations. So now let me take the example of taxonomy. So the principles I will talk about while building taxonomy are applicable across every foundation, be it design, tech, content, but I'm just illustrating it with using the example of taxonomy. What is taxonomy? Taxonomy is basically a structure for your data. To give you an e-commerce example, you have electronics. Under electronics, you have mobile phones. Under mobile phones, you have smartphones, accessories. Under smartphones, you have Android, iOS. So this way of segregating your data is called taxonomy. And we realized that whatever product we build in shopping, we would need to have a very deep understanding of what our market is, how does shopping look, and reuse this for any product that we launch. So we built a foundation for taxonomy. So how do you build a foundation? A foundation should reflect reality and not the product. It should be as close to how things really are in the market. The market, the users, the suppliers, they have evolved in a certain way over decades. Don't try to disrupt everything from day one. Be as close to how the market is, how users perceive the market to be, and this will really allow you to pivot quickly because you will be able to integrate with everything that is out there in the market. Should be flexible and future-proof. You don't know what you will learn, you don't know what roadblock will come to you. You might have to scrap all of it again. Don't try to build the perfect structure. Build something super simple that you can twist, hack, or even just throw away if you have to. And it needs to support many end products. As I said, you have no idea what you will end up building. So look at what is out there in the market. Look at how different people are trying to solve this problem and see that can my foundation roughly support all the products out there? This will kind of get you to look inwards and see that, oh, am I over-optimizing this? Am I over-engineering this sort of problem? So now after a lot of research and like how to build a taxonomy is another talk in itself, but we came up with a way to reflect the offline shopping into a structured data set. So we had three major entities. The first is called a cluster. What's a cluster? Cluster is just a geographical entity with a lot of stores. So any place which has a lot of stores inside of it. A shopping mall is a cluster, a shopping street is a cluster, even an airport is a cluster. The second entity is a store. Store is self-explanatory, smallest unit of place where you can go and buy things. And the third entity that we came up with is a brand. Brand is a hypothetical entity which represents the common theme between all the products that are sold under its umbrella. And how are they related? A cluster has a lot of stores, and a lot of stores sells a lot of brands. Let me give you an example to explain this further. So Bangalore is a cluster. Bangalore has a lot of shops, a lot of stores inside of it, so Bangalore is a cluster. Bangalore has multiple clusters inside of it. Brigade Road, UB City Mall. UB City Mall has multiple stores, a Louis Vuitton store and a multi-brand store. The Louis Vuitton store sells Louis Vuitton brand. The other store sells Nike, Adidas. And these brands are then available in other stores which are available in other clusters. So this kind of becomes like a graph. And we were able to map out the entire shopping in the entire city just by using this. So now how did this work for our products? Let me take the example. So now, by the way, if you look at this taxonomy, it makes sense intuitively. This is how customers and even us imagine the world. So this reflects reality, and I have not even talked about what exactly our product is. So now, how did this work for the first product that we built? Let's say I want to show the users what are the top vintage stores in London. Where can you go to buy vintage clothes? So the first thing I had to do was get information about all the stores that sell anything related to vintage clothing. That was easy. I looked at all the shopping areas which had stores related to vintage clothing, all the brands, all the stores, and we just went and sent people into the street and got all this information. But how do you let people discover this? All we had to do was create a very thin layer on top called collections. And this, let's say I created a collection called Top Vintage Stores in London, connected them to the stores and clusters which sell vintage clothes, and that's it. It worked out of the box. The user can now see where should they go to buy vintage clothes, what stores are part of it, what other brands they sell, and they can keep exploring this product and keep going into that loop. Now let's look at the other next product. How did the same taxonomy work for the second product? Now remember, we had the new entity called product. This was actually a surprise for us. We didn't think that we'll do anything related to products. We only created things about shopping malls, areas. So now how do you connect this new product entity into your content structure? Again, because it was really simple. We just had to create another entity. iPhone is connected to Apple, and that's it. The user can now see, okay, iPhone is connected to Apple, this is the price of the product, where is it available, which shopping area is it in, and they can just plan their trip around it. On top of this, we were also able to use all the content that was created for the previous stage of the product without any extra investment. It just worked out of the box. And so I used a very simple example of taxonomy and how this integrated very well with us. But we were also able to use the same structure for running discounts, even partnering with Instagram influencers to write content for us. We just exposed our APIs, integration with payment providers like Alipay, WeChat, integration with e-commerce players, and even other internal teams within Booking.com who wanted to use this content. So in the end, I just want to add one last thing. So a lot of times when I talk about this, people come back to me saying that, oh, but if I invest all my time into building a foundation, when will I build a product? Will this not affect my speed? Will this not affect the quality of product that I'm building? No. This is actually a way of thinking. This is actually how you approach building a product. This is a mindset change. Don't marry yourself to the first product that you're building. Think long term. Think that, okay, this is going to take 1, 2, 3, even 10 years to build a successful company. So adapt this change into how you design, how you build systems, how do you source content, and it will play out beautifully for you. So in the end, I would just like to summarize that when you're targeting a new market or targeting a new problem statement, initially be as product agnostic as possible. You're still learning about your market, you're still learning about your users. So try to be as independent of the product as you can be, and as you learn, you can then start to fine-tune things. Reflect current reality and user behavior. Try to be as close to how things are today. Don't try to change everything from day one. The closer you are to the way things are today, the easier it will be for you to position yourself to either integrate with other partners or even for your customers to understand what you're doing. Always build things with a long-term view. Building a good product, building a startup is a long-term game. It's not a 2-month project that, okay, we launched this is working, we have good numbers, okay, out. It takes time, it takes effort. So always think that you're in this to solve the problem and not just build one product. And in the end, it's a choice, not a trade-off. You're not balancing speed or quality with this. This is something that you have to ingrain in your culture, and it will give you a lot of rewards. So that's it from me. Thank you so much. And you can find me on Twitter at Chitra Gangrade.